So polite. Of renewed violence in Tahrir Square. Is there any fear from the State Department that this could spill over into along more sectarian lines? There's been some attack against Coptic Christians of late. Do you have a comment?
Well, I know these reports were out just this morning. We, of course, continue to condemn all violence and encourage all sides to refrain from violence, and that is a message that we're conveying both publicly and privately. Beyond that, they're relatively new reports, so I just don't have any new analysis for you.
Anything on the attacks against Coptic Christians?
We spoke about this as it related, unfortunately, to a separate instance just last week or the week before, and obviously we're concerned about any instances of violence or targeted violence.
Any change in the status of the designation, whether it's a coup or not a coup?
There has not been. We continue to. We clearly have serious concerns about what took place, but the situation is very complex, and we're continuing to take a close look at this at every level here.
Okay, just a quick follow-up on a question that we asked Marie last week.
Okay.
On what the Secretary had said about, Egypt was on the verge of a civil war. Could you clarify that a bit further?
Well, I know
the picture gotten clearer since then.
I know Marie spoke about this on Friday, and so I would point you to that. If we go back, the President obviously expressed deep concerns about the actions the Egyptian military took place on July 3rd with his statement. This hasn't changed. We're not in no way saying the military's actions were justified. It's also true that we were very concerned about the level of violence on the ground in the days leading up to the military's actions. And there were millions of Egyptians, as we've talked about quite a bit in here, who have legitimate concerns, who had legitimate concerns with the way the Morsi government was governing. So that's what he was referring to. We're focused now on continuing to encourage an inclusive process moving forward, and for the interim government to take steps to move toward that.
Issam Laryan, a Muslim Brotherhood leader, has called today on Egyptians to lay siege to the U.S. Embassy in Cairo to protest what he said was American support for the ouster of President Morsi. Are you aware of this call? Did you take any measurements or measures in the embassy? Have you?
Well, I haven't seen that specific report, but let me just say that there have been a lot of reports out there, including many about Ambassador Patterson, that are incredibly erroneous, and we have taken every step we can to refute them and provide the facts. She is somebody who has a long history as a member of the Foreign Service. She's proudly and bravely served around the world. So we will continue to refute that as we hear it. In terms of the safety of our officials serving, this is something we always continue to evaluate, and we have taken steps and would take steps as needed if the situation warrants.
They are still insisting that the U.S. has supported the ouster of President Morsi.
Well, I think we've spoken about this quite a bit in here. I have, and my colleagues Marie and Patrick have. We remain adamant and truthful that we have not taken any position or taken any side, I should say, actually is more accurate, and we'll continue to convey what our accurate position is both in Egypt and here in Washington as well.
I understood your answer to a couple questions back. The legal review about the determination is still ongoing, is that?
That's correct.
That's correct. You're aware that, you'll recall that President Morsi was ousted on July 3rd.
I am aware.
That was almost 3 weeks ago. So is this delay in making the determination, would you say that the delay is due more to a lack of legal competence or the lack of a coherent policy?
Well, I would, no surprise, refute both of those notions and say this is a very complex situation on the ground.
Yes, but
these things
surely,
take time,
yes,
historically, Matt, and we're continuing to evaluate and discuss interagency.
Would you not agree that 3 weeks is an awfully long time to figure out what exactly happened?
I would not agree.
No?
This is a very complex situation, continues to be, and we're evaluating it every day.
All right. Well, would you say that the days are numbered for the review?
I'm not even sure what that means.
Well,
so.
I mean, is it ever going to be finished? Or is it only going to be finished once it's no longer relevant?
We're continuing to focus on the review, Matt. I don't have any update for you on the time of conclusion.
That the interim government is doing any kind of progress right now?
We've seen, we've seen an announcement about a constitutional process. We've seen the appointment of interim leaders. I'm not here to evaluate or give a grade, but we continue to encourage the interim government to move forward on an inclusive process and to move forward on elections of a civilian government and one that includes all sectors of society as soon as possible.
Have you been in contact with the interim foreign minister in Cairo?
I'd have to get you, I believe he has, but let me get you an update on that after the briefing on the exact timing of when that was.
Sorry. Bush's daughter appealed to the government to release her father. She's suggesting that his life may be in peril, and she's also appealing to everybody if they can locate where he is. Nobody seems to know where he is. Do you have any idea about his whereabouts and under what conditions he's being held?
I don't have any update for you on that.
Follow up to Matt's question, just for clarification,
Sure.
when you say that making this determination takes time historically, is there a legal precedent that you're using as part of your analysis?
I'm not going to discuss the internal interagency process. Obviously, this is a complex situation on the ground. They're reviewing it. They're taking into account events on the ground as well as of course our legal obligations. But beyond that, I just don't have an update for you all on the timing of completion.
But if you're saying the timing is historically to do this designation, it takes time. That means that you are comparing it to other situations.
I'm sure we can look into any historical comparisons for all of you, but I'm not a historian, and I was just making a broad point.
Do you have any update on where Mr. Snowden is and any progress?
Sure.
Just that the European EU foreign ministers have come out with an explicit call. This is more than just Germany for former President Morsi. By the way, is that what you refer to him as? Former President Morsi? Is that what the U.S. believes his position is?
Well, I think we have been in touch and are recognizing the interim government, or we're working with them, I should say, not recognizing.
So that would be, so anyway, the EU foreign ministers have all come out with a statement calling for his release. Is that, does the United States support that position now that it's more than just the Germans?
I think I've stated our position on this, and I don't have anything more on it new for you today.
Okay, can I just ask again my question from 10 days ago? Why is it taboo for you to say from the podium that you would like to see former President Morsi released?
I just don't have anything more for you on it, Matt. I think Leslie was jumping in here. We'll go right to you next, I promise.
I was just wondering for logical reasons, not really, just so, if the U.S. disbursed aid to Egypt while you're busy with this review, or when would be the next time that you would disburse the aid?
Well, it's kind of a complicated question because obviously there's several different buckets of aid. We're continuing to pay our bills and abide by our obligations here. The President has asked for, I should say, when he made his initial statement, for the government and all agencies to conduct a review. That's ongoing, but in the interim, we're still providing aid.
When the President asks his staff to do a review, does he expect that it's going to take 3 weeks?
I think there's a recognition on how complex this situation is, Matt.
do you define him as former or deposed or any of these terms?
I don't think I need to define him. We're working with the interim government. We've been in touch with them, as you know, on several levels, and we're eager to see a democratic, inclusive process moving forward.
Okay, let me ask you about one more time about the current status of President Morsi. Do you know his whereabouts? And I know I asked this, but if his life is in peril, and you know, if it's compromised, then it's going to be like a hurricane that flows into some sort of a confrontation. Shouldn't you be sort of concerned about his whereabouts? Shouldn't you be assured that he is actually fine and well and so on?
Well, Saeed, we've talked a bit about how we have been encouraging all sides to abide by rule of law, and of course to treat all individuals who have been arbitrarily detained at the highest level. But beyond that, I just don't have an update for you on status or location.
Well, but you called for his release. Did they respond to you? Did they answer you?
I don't have anything more for you, Saeed.
You once said that you respect the Egyptian people's will or decisions, right? So right now, officially, for them, the former president, Morsi, is a former president. He's no longer a president. So do you consider him as a former president respecting the will or the decision of the Egyptian people, yes or no?
I don't think I need to name him or define his name. Our focus is on moving forward, and our focus is on working with the interim government to have inclusive, civilian, democratically elected process, or democratic process to elect a civilian government. So that's where our focus is.
This way, Jen, are you trying to avoid this situation, and how are you going to deal with it?
I don't think at all. I think I'm conveying what our focus is.
Avoid anything here?
I think this has become a game, so I'm moving on to the next question.
Yeah, insurgents in Iraq.